This is Ina Maybon of lightcycleastrology.com. Today, we are taking a look at some of the aspects that are rolling us into the third week of October 2022. And before we begin, please like, share, and subscribe on the video because it really helps the channel to grow, and I really appreciate that. All right, let's go ahead and pull up the real-time clock here. Now, I've got the Egyptian bounds plugged into the zodiac today. And I'm doing this because I just thought it might be interesting to see what's happening with some of these planets going through the bound terms. If you're not familiar with Egyptian bounds, you can see that it looks as though planets are ruling or abiding over certain divisions within each sign here. And that's essentially what it is. So, for instance, right now, we've got the sun. I don't know if you can see this on camera, but the sun and Venus, their degree marker lines on the wheel here are showing you that they're kind of right in the bounds here of Venus. So this is really nice because Venus is not only in one of her temples in Libra, but Venus is also running through her bound terms. So it's like she has extra control over how she wants to behave. And, you know, Venus always wants to harmonize things together, wants to think about other people in the sign of Libra and be the mediator, keep the, status quo happy and going and pleasant, and, wants to have fun, wants to be social, wants to have love relationships, and all that kind of thing is Venus's territory. So Venus is very much squarely in her territory, in her Egyptian bound terms, and in her sign of Libra. What is happening is that over the week, this next week here, we are also having this aspect from Mars, this trine Mars energy coming in and striking Venus with energy. So that is also really interesting because, we're talking about the lovers in astrology, right? We have Venus representing the goddess, and we have Mars. Even the glyph of the planet of Mars is that male erection symbol. So you can see that this is a very sexual energy, or at very least, it's a very creative energy. But what types of things are likely to be creative? I think that is where you see some of the nuance in the terms and where things are heading shortly after this aspect. Next week, the last week in October, we have an eclipse in Scorpio, and Mars is the ruler of Scorpio. So I feel like this energy is really setting up some interesting dynamics this week. It's a very pleasant energy. Let's run through some of the themes that I came up with. So Venus in Libra is very nostalgic. It looks to the past, and that's because the exaltation of Libra is Saturn. And Saturn represents things that are like old-fashioned or old, or somehow going into that wintry time of the past. So Venus is really filling that nostalgic longing for something classic, something classically beautiful, some pastime of pleasure, some kind of long-term steady relationship. But here comes this Mars-like energy that says, wait a minute, I want danger. I want dangerous ideas. I want arguments that maybe stir up the pot and create some new sexual tension or some new creative tension. Maybe let's go to a party and then drink a little bit and then drive fast and be like teenagers and sort of fly around the corners, screeching our wheels, something to that effect. Mars is sort of emblematic of introducing a little bit of danger and excitement and a little bit of darkness that is heading us towards the sign of Scorpio that planets will be entering, fairly soon. In the next couple of weeks, we're going to have planets running through Scorpio. So I think Mars is sort of setting up like, hey, don't get too old-fashioned. Don't get too pleasant and stuck in your status quo kinds of ways. Let's shake things up a little bit. Let's maybe get into a fight on purpose, or, so we can have some makeup sex, or, something like that. But Mars really adds in, I think, an element of darkness. It's almost the watching a vampire movie late at night and, purposefully trying to like scare yourself with some kind of, Halloween entertainment or something like that, right? It's perfect for this time of year. The romanticism of the fall time where the leaves are changing and that death is sort of upon our, in our viewpoint, in our vantage point, we're sort of going into the winter dark death months of fall and winter, right? So you can kind of see that Mars is bringing some kind of excitement or tension, and being in a Mercury ruled sign, I think that this speaks to things that have to do with travel, with speed, with thoughts or ideas, maybe with arguments, things like that that are coming up that are impressing their dangerous quality or dark qualities upon Venus, who is, going basically towards the sun every day by degrees, little by little. She's chasing the sun. And this synodic cycle between Venus and the sun also speaks to Venus willingly entering the underworld in the sign Libra of the underworld, heading towards the dark of the dark part of the year in Scorpio. So these are some of the themes that I'm looking at for the week ahead. Now, also to kind of pair with this energy, you do see that we are also walking into the third quarter moon phase. Third quarter moon phases are always about letting go of something that has come before, some culminative success perhaps, or some energy that peaked on the full moon. The third quarter moon is going to naturally want to release, maybe change its face, prepare for something new, sort of look ahead towards a new day. So these themes of Mars wanting excitement and being in a sign that like takes apart the light of springtime and heads us towards the fall. All of these symbols to me speak to a sort of pleasure surrounding releasing, letting go, dismantling, heading us into the underworld, but doing so in sort of a harmonious or pleasant way. So I think that that is a very nuanced but exciting week that we have ahead for us. The other thing that is happening by actually Sunday, so even before the week begins here, we do see that Mercury, who is just a very fast-moving planet, Mercury is at 8 degrees in 35 minutes, also in his own bound terms, interestingly enough. And the sun is at 23 and 34. So this is the exact moment. This is happening October 16th at about 1:31 p.m. Hawaiian time. So if you're on the East Coast, that's more like, what is that, 6:31 maybe, or something like that. But this is the moment. It's basically the end of the weekend here. We see that Mercury begins to enter under the beams of the sun. Now, unlike Venus being in her own temple where she has protection against this this malefic maltreatment that the sun can provide when a planet gets too close to it, Mercury is not in his own temple. He is in his own bounds. So initially he'll walk into this phase kind of gently, sticking his toe in the water. But once Mercury moves under the beams further, we are now entering a mercurial period where we're heading towards the Mercury Sun cazimi. That is symbolic of Mercury flying too close to the sun, the mythology of Icarus, if you will. And this sort of speaks to Mercury entering the underworld and preparing to transform or go through some transformative moment. So again, we come back to this theme of entering the underworld, danger, darkness, all of these things. Saturn exaltation, Mars and Gemini in Mercury's sign. This sort of all points towards the same way, but that is another thing where Mercury is also entering underneath the beams. So it is going to be a good week, I think. I'm really excited to see what the week brings. Please leave a comment in the comment section, because this is always fun to see how the symbols are showing up for you, how the energies are sort of manifesting in their varied ways that they do. And I look forward to reading those and seeing what you guys are experiencing as these planets are going through these transitions. But anyway, that will conclude basically the beginning of the week. And some other things that are happening just before I go here, we do still have this aspect that is the Neptune-Mars square that is basically leading us to the Mars retrograde, very near the eclipse in Scorpio at the beginning of the new moon coming up in a couple of weeks. We do see Mars stationing to turn retrograde. And look how close Mars is to this perfected square to Neptune. So there's a whole story with Mars and Neptune as well in the mix right now, which is sort of speaking to Mars-like things becoming very spiritualized or glamorous or desirable. Neptune acts like a sparkly, luring kind of energy. It's like a fish hook where you can't resist. You want the gold. You get like gold fever surrounding Mars types of things. This is also something to watch out for, because there might be a moment where, let's say you're thinking about making a change in a relationship, and you're doing it to like shake up your life and create some sexual tension with maybe somebody new or even with a partner that you're with at the time. But you always want to be a little bit cautious when you have aspects from Neptune, because things might just appear more sparkly and beautiful or wondrous than they actually are in reality. Neptune kind of has that quality to it. So that is also something that we'll talk about more, because that is really fundamental to the eclipse that is happening in Scorpio in a couple of weeks here. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. I look forward to reading the comments, and I hope you have a great week, and I'll be back soon with another astrology video. Take care, everybody. I'll see you soon. Bye.